Hello, and in this video we're going to go over the G1 PPS. The purpose of this video is to help you get familiar with the PPS and the different settings that it allows for you to utilize in your unit. So when you first open the G1 PPS, you'll be presented with this page. The password will already be filled in. However, the default password is 12345678. Very simple. But right here we'll click log in. Then you'll come to this page. This is the main landing page, and it has a few different options here. It has our PPS user guide, which you can browse. Our PPS System Settings. We can program a pager with an existing Codeplug file. We can program a pager by reading a Codeplug file from an actively programmed G1. We can clone a Minitor 5 file to a G1 file, so it allows you to convert from a Minitor 5 to a G1 very easily. Or we can adjust our music alerts and voice programming, voice prompt programming here. So I'm going to go down these one by one, starting with the PPS system setting. Now, one of the very first things you want to do when you open the G1 PPS is you want to make sure that your COM port is set correctly. So we'll click here on PPS System Settings, and the COM port setting is here. Now, because I don't have a programmer plugged into my machine, I don't show any COM ports. However, when you have a programmer plugged in, it should show an available COM port. If you're unsure which COM port is your G1 programmer, the easiest way to do this is to open your device manager, look at your COM ports, under ports COM and LPT, and simply unplug the programmer, and whichever COM port disappears is the one that you are going to want to select in this section. So you'll plug your unit back in, that COM port should populate, and you will just select it from a drop-down menu. You can also, in this PPS system setting, change your login password if you like. Okay, next thing I want to talk about on this page is the music alerts, voice prompt programming. So the music alerts, the unit supports many different WAV files for alerting and for voice prompts. It can hold up to 16 music alerts and up to 64 voice prompts. Now, when you go to add music alerts or voice prompts to your pager, be sure first that you read the voice pager so that it pulls the current voice prompts from the unit. And those will show up here, I believe, in 1 through 8. I believe is how many is in there by default. And then you'll want to add your rest in below that. But if you're going to be replacing the default ones, you can also just add them in here as music alerts, or as in here, the voice prompts. Now, once we've done that, which this is a completely optional part of the software, you don't have to use this at all. You can use the standard tones or the tone creator inside the software. Next thing we want to do is I want to go ahead and program a pager with a existing Codeplug file. So I'm going to open here. I have a G1 default file here for a VHF G1. They're going to be file extension .cp is going to be the file extension for G1 programming files. And now we're presented with a bunch of lettered tabs here. So the first thing it's going to show you is it's going to show you the serial number of that file. So this is the serial number of the unit that this file was from, and it'll show you the pager type and a band split. But what it will allow you to do here, if you click on any of these blue names, it will show up here in the help tips over here on the right what each of these do. Now, the inventory control number is just that. It's an internal tracking number. Say if you want to put a person's radio identifier number there to identify that, hey, this is their unit. Or say you buy a group of 30 units, you could number them 1 through 30. And that way you have an inventory control and you know which pager's which. Group name, that's simply that. It's the name of the group. You can add, say, whatever fire department. And username, you could have the individual firefighter or EMS member's name in there, and that would identify this file as being the one that's in their unit. Okay, next tab we're going to go to is tab B. It's going to be our pager configuration settings. Now, as you'll see, the G1 software is broken down into many different colored areas. So all of the ones here in the green area on this page are going to be individual different settings that you can change that will affect how the pager behaves. So your default on-off duty state, you want to make sure that that's always set to on. You know, your key lock, if you want to put the key lock on, if you want it to be fixed alert by default. One of the big ones here is the squelch control receiver. As you see here, it's disabled. Now, if you enable this, if you look at the help tip over here, if enabled, the G1 will mute the speaker during idle channel conditions. That means after the two-tone page comes out and the alert goes, if there's any break in the middle there, it's not going to be it's not going to have a squelch sound. It's going to make that silent, so you don't hear that, you know, with a white noise. So that's going to allow that to be silent. Also, it allows you to turn the screen completely off if you like, change the default zone, default contrast, things like that. The blue field here is pleasing tone settings. It allows you to change these different numbers here to effectually create an alert tone to your liking. If I click on the blue field here, it shows us that each of these numbers corresponds to a different frequency or hertz or sound. And each one of these numbers in these slots corresponds to 1/16 of a second. So a 16th of a second. So essentially, say this pleasing tone 3, which is pretty close to the original minute or tone. It's gonna play 3322 hertz for a 1/16 of a second, and then it's gonna be silent. 3322. It's gonna beep 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 beep. It's gonna do that for the duration of the alert tone. The purple field discuss the voice message reminder alerts. So it allows you to change your alert interval and alert timeout if you want it to repeatedly alert. And the orange field here is going to add and remove options from the menu. So these are not actually enabling zoom mode, but it allows you to access the zoom mode from the menu of the pager. So if you want them to be able to change fixed alert from the front panel of the pager, you could do that. If you want them to be able to change their duty mode, or whether enable charging backlight, or enable or disable voice memo, things like that, you can add this and they will be able to see that inside the menu. Okay, next tab here is tab D. Now tab D is where we put in our source prompts. Now source prompts are kind of your alpha tags. This is where you're creating kind of a pool of alpha tags that you can pull from when you create your two-tone pairs or your MDC, anything like that. So say if we had two-tone 1 and two-tone 2. Two-tone 2. Oop. Two-tone 2. So say we have two-tone 1, two-tone 2, and then if you see at the very bottom, it defaults the all-call prompt to all-call. So when we go into our next tab, which will be our MDC Contact Book, you can add your MDC numbers, and then you have, as you see here, you can select an alpha tag for that. Now, one thing about MDC, to save battery life, we recommend not enabling MDC in these units. It does have a significant drain on battery life, MDC. However, if you do need to use it, you can. It is there. Moving on to the next tab is the Call ID Capcode. This is where we're going to enable our two-tone pairs. So as you can see, we have different tone tables here that we can customize. Majority of people will only use one, but we'll go in here and I'll configure one here for you. So the first thing we want to do is configure the paging system, whether it be Motorola, GE, Plectron, or Reach. This determines tone timing, things like that. The standard Motorola timing is 1 second, 3 second. But you can also use user define and you can change that. So we're going to select Motorola. As you can see here in this list, each tone table can have up to 16 tones assigned in it. And we'll just click here, say on call 1 here. It's going to show our paging system and our tone type. Our tone pattern can be either two-tone or a long tone, depending on what they send out from the system. If we click here next to the frequency here, it's going to pull up a signaling setting for Motorola. This is the Motorola tone set. So if I select, say, 617.4, and then for tone B, do a 688.3, and then we'll select our source prompt, which is going to be our two-tone 1. And down here you can change the alert tone based on whether you want to follow what the zone is set to, or say I want this one to be the pleasing tone 3, which is the closest to the monitor tone. I'll select that. And if I want my backlight to be red when that tone comes out, we'll set it to that. And I want it to store the voice. Now, if you ever wanted to play the alert tone, you could do that. Play it from the pager by clicking this button, or play it from the PC by clicking this file button. Now we will confirm and back. And now say we wanted to set up another two-tone pair. We just go in here, click here, and then we will select, say this one is a long tone. Say this one is a long tone 553.9. We'll select our source prompt. It could be all call. And our alert tone, say we want it to be standard tone 2 with a backlight of green. And we do want to save the stored voice. We can hit confirm and back, and then now it is listed here. And we can do the same thing with a third tone, and being the two-tone 2. Okay, once we've done that, we can confirm and back. Now, if you're using MDC, you can go into this. It sets up just like the two-tone does. You'll select your MDC type, which is going to be MDC. You'll click here. You'll put your call ID, your source prompt, your alert tone, same as you do on two-tone. It also in here has a decode option setting where you can select whether it's a selective call, PTTID, or a short message. We will go back here and we will go next to G1. G1 is where you put in your frequencies and assign your two-tone pairs to those frequencies. So say we have channel 1 here. I'll double click on it. It'll open up. It'll say channel enabled. Our channel is enabled. It's going to be, say we want it to be dispatch. And we can change our channel bandwidth. We can change our channel frequency if we need to change that. We can add our squelch type, whether it be TPL or DPL or CTCSS or CDCSS. And you can add multiple CTCSS frequencies if needed. And we can also invert our DPL or CDCSS. Channel receive option setting here, expander and de-emphasis. Usually you can leave these as default unless you know for a fact that you need to change them based on the system settings. And then when you come down here, your signaling type, you can either have two-tone or five-tone. And you can change your reference table here to change between the different two-tone tables. And then say we select our call 1 and our call 2. Now you can have them set to none, which is the default setting. You can have them set to priority, which means they will alert at the highest volume no matter what setting you have it set to. And off duty allows it to alert when the unit's in off duty mode. Now you can do channel signaling down here at the bottom with your MDC if you have an MDC list set up. We happen to have one set up, but we don't have any tones or any MDC IDs in that list. So I'll just leave that to none. Now, if we wanted to, we could add a secondary channel here. And we can enable that channel. And then say we want this to be our fireground channel. And just for the sake of ease, I'm just going to leave it as the default 148.0125. And put a DPL of 47. And we're not going to invert it. Now with this one, since this is our fireground channel, it's not going to have any two-tone on it. So we can just not even select a signaling type. We just leave it set to none. And then we'll confirm them back. Okay, now that we've got our two frequencies here, we'll go to tab G2. Now manual scan is mainly used with our free scan mode. these units, it allows you to manually scan different frequencies that you find. This is not where you set up your normal scan. So if you were to add this and to go channel scan, you could select and then and add these over. However, this would be for if you just manually wanted to scan. So you would manually change frequencies on that knob, which is possible, and you can do that. So we'll just leave that enabled. Now here's where you would enable your scan list. And you can build up to 16 different scan lists. I'm going to enable that scan list here, and we're going to call this scan. And our priority channel is going to be our dispatch because it's got our two-tone pair on it. And secondary is going to be fireground. Now our busy channel option, we can leave that to auto reset with CSQ or without. The differences are listed here. And as I said before, any of these things in blue here, in the blue lettering, you can click and it'll open up the help topic on the side there. Okay, now that we have that set, we can go back and go to tab H. Now tab H is where you're going to enable your zones and where we're going to set up our knob positions. So if I go into say zone 1 here, and I'm looking, it allows us to set certain settings based on the zone itself. So we can set the alert length for this zone down to 3 seconds if we wanted to. And that way, when you set it up, like up here, when you went to call ID, where it says alert tone, you could have that set to by zone, things like that. And also later when we set up the alert length, it'll also allows you to change that right here. So see this two-tone alert duration, you can have it set to by alert length, which is this, or by the length of the B tone, which is what it is by default. So if I wanted it always to alert for 3 seconds no matter what, I could set it to by alert length. Now say I wanted to alert for 5 seconds. Even though I know the B tone is only going to be 3 seconds, I could have it do that. I could just set that to 5 seconds and then set it to by alert length, and then no matter how long the B tone is, it's always going to alert for 5 seconds. You can also set the different alert settings for the zone itself here. These are the message alerts and the backlight settings here for the zone. So now, as you see, when you select each one of these zones and highlight them, 8 different knob positions become set up down here. So with knob 1, we'll set this up as a selective call. Now the difference between selective call and monitor is selective call is silent until it receives a two-tone pair, and then it behaves however the reset mode is set. Monitor mode is open all the time. So we're going to set this for selective call, and we're going to use dispatch because that's the one that has our two-tone pair on. Now reset modes are very important. I personally use delay in auto, which means that it will use a delay and revert timer. So it'll use this delay timer, and this is mainly used when there is a carrier drop or a drop in the transmission, or someone unkeys the mic after the two-tone pair, and then there's a delay there, and then they pick it back up, press the PTT, and talk. Now, if it's set to automatic, what it could do is, if it sees that carrier drop or the signal drop out, then it could reset, and it would not play the audio. So what I like to do is use a delay in auto, so it automatically resets after a certain time, but it creates a delay there and allows for, say, a 15-second delay to give the dispatcher time to give out the message. Now the blue fields down here is where you would set push to listen. So if you want it to be completely silent and you had to push the button on the side, you can adjust your privacy, which basically, when it's set, you have to, it disables the push to listen button. You can't even do push to listen. And then there's request for CDCSS. Now, if you've set up your PL tones on your frequency and you want it to make sure that it's following those PL tones, you need to set this to yes. That way, it's requiring that. And for signaling here, and or. Basically, or means that it requires both the PL tone and the two-tone pair to open, and it requires both. Or means that if it receives the two-tone pair, it will still open even if the PL tone's not there. And then, of course, you have alert mode, which is where you set your different alert modes. Whether it be tone only, tone and vibrate, vibrate then alert, or vibrate only or silent. So leave that set to tone only. And we'll go down here and we'll just set up a monitor mode for that dispatch channel in case and I can leave that to automatic since it's going to be open all the time. No push to listen. I want it to request for PL, and I hit confirm and back. Now I have a selective call and a monitor mode. I don't have that fireground. Well, if I want that fireground, I can come over here and do a monitor mode, put the fireground in, request for the PL tone, confirm and back. Now I have the fireground monitor. But what if I wanted to do both of these? Well, I've set up a scan list in G3, so I can go here, select normal scan, and then pick our scan list, which is scan is what we called it. And then our automatic scan mode here, our automatic reset mode, we can leave that there since they're both going to be open. And we want it to request for PL as well. So when I hit confirm and back, now we have a scan on this knob position. Now there are different types of function modes that the unit supports. And to go over those is like selective call, monitor, normal scan, priority scan is going to prioritize your dispatch frequency or whatever frequency you set it to. And it will check back depending on how you set it up. So if I say select the priority scan here, there's going to be if I select priority scan, and I select the scan list here, it's going to use that priority list back there. Now if I go here, this is where you set your priority channel check interval. So however often you want it to check back to that priority channel, which you always want it to be. You wouldn't want it to be longer than your A tone of your two-tone pair, or it has a chance of missing the two-tone pair. So this is a priority scan, so it's going to check back to that dispatch frequency every half a second. Now these voice prompts, I have not been setting them, but you can go back and set them. Your voice prompt 1 is going to be selective call. Voice prompt 2 is going to be monitor. Voice prompt 3 is normal scan. Voice prompt 4 is priority scan, so on and so forth. So for monitor, I would want to put it on voice prompt 2. But for selective call, I would want to put it on voice prompt 1. Which I want to set that to selective call. Now, once you've filled up one of those zones, you can always enable the next zone and then be able to change between those zones through the menu. Okay, the next tab is the OTA control setting. This was mainly used for GSM units. It's not used anymore since our GSM was a 2G module, and that has been disabled by the carriers. So this is unused. Our pager program table, this is where you can actually look at all of the things that you have programmed into your unit in one place, and you can export it to a CSV file, save things like that. You can also save your profile by hitting save as, type your file name, and then save it. We can export it table. It converts that data that's in this list. And it can take a second depending on how much data is there. The main thing we want to get out of this is now all that's left is to write the pager. Once you write the pager, it will have all of this information that you have programmed here. You can save the file separately so that you don't have to worry about that being lost, anything like that. If pager file gets corrupted, make sure to always keep a backup of your pager file. But I thank you very much for watching this video and going through the G1 programming software. And it exported a XLS file of the G1 report. But I thank you again for going with me on this journey through the G1 PPS. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. Just email support@unication.com, and we will do our best to assist in any way we can. We thank you, and we ask you that you have a wonderful day.